Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our Sabbath class, 24th of September 2022. Later on in the class, our Bible readings, we'll be dealing with the book of Leviticus, uncovering some stuff in there. I'm asking everybody to like, share, subscribe to Prophets of Awakening channel. Hit the notification button if you like the content. And for those that don't know, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh is the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and Torah is the first 5 books of the Tanakh, which was given to Moses on Mount Sinai by the Lord of Hosts. You can check out our videos. There's a lot of information given on this channel, and the videos will connect dots for you and bring you into the truth of the scriptures. So with that being said, I want to say shalom and welcome to Prophets of Awakening, and welcome to our Sabbath class. We're going to do our normal, which is the moment of silence, our Sabbath prayer. We're going to do Psalms and some current events, a little need-to-know information. Then we'll open it up for some Q&A, and then we'll go into our Bible reading. Okay? So this moment of silence is for the Lord of Hosts and all that He's doing to orchestrate our deliverance, our prophesied deliverance from the land of our captives that we were scattered some 2,500 years ago because of our disobedience and us rejecting our Creator and our Redeemer. Okay. So, oh Lord, we come before Thee on this Sabbath day, thanking You for Your mercy and Your great power. We appreciate You, O Lord, for Your patience and guidance in these last days. Oh Lord, we thank You for awakening us to this great understanding of Your word. And we come before Thee. We come before You that You keep, direct, and guide us through the upcoming days and weeks. Oh Lord, there are trials and tribulations and pestilence and mayhem at every turn. Now that You're waking us up, oh Lord, we see Your mighty hand in the world's affairs and how You are instructing Your people's deliverance. And we trust and rely upon Thee. And for this cause, we honor and respect You greatly. Turn not Thy face from us, but allow us in our searching of You, O Lord, to dwell with You. Peace be on You. Okay?
Hallelujah.
We're going to read the Psalms. Okay? Okay, I'm going to read Psalm 48. It's God is God. God is our God. Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised in the city of our God, in the mountain of His holiness. Beautiful for situation. The joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion, on the sides of the north, the city of the great King. God is known in her palaces for a refuge. For lo, the kings were assembled. They passed by together. They saw it, and so they marveled. They were troubled and hasted away. Fear took a hold upon them there, and pain as a woman in travail. Thou breakest the ships of Tarsus with an east wind. As we have heard, so have we seen. in the city of the Lord of hosts, in the city of our God. God will establish it forever. Selah. We have thought of thy loving kindness, O God, in the midst of thy temple, according to thy name, O God. So is the praise unto the ends of the earth. Thy right hand is full of righteousness. Let Mount Zion rejoice. Let the daughters of Judah be glad because of thy judgment. Walk about Zion and go round about her. Tell the towers thereof. Mark ye well her bulwarks, consider her palaces, that we may tell it to the generation following. For this God is our God forever and ever. He will be our guide even unto death. So that was Psalm 48. God is our God. Okay, any comments on that? Okay, so I was going to find read verse 11 says, let Mount Zion rejoice and let the daughters of Judah be glad because of thy judgments. And so that reminds me of our predicament right now. A lot of the situation with what's going on with us today right now between the Israelite man and the Israelite woman is the lack of the Lord of hosts judgments. And so many things is happening that should have been judged that it came to a point where it can cause a split between the Israelite man and the Israelite woman. So to read that, it says, let Mount Zion rejoice and let the daughters of Judah be glad because of thy judgments. So when his judgments do come back, we'll see a smile on the daughters of Judah face. Okay. So with that being said, anybody got anything on that? Okay, we're gonna go into our current events. Okay.
If you have been to your local supermarket lately, you probably have noticed empty shelves where some of the most popular grocery staples should be. This year, a series of food retailers, including big names such as Walmart and Target, are experiencing shortages of a wide range of products as a result of supply chain disruptions, higher costs of fuel and fertilizers, and extreme weather events. Now, industry insiders are telling us that the outlook for agricultural production in the U.S. is extremely grim. No one really knows for sure when the supply of many of these everyday essentials will bulk back up, and while shortages persist, prices continue to climb higher, with some painful increases that range from 10 to over 40% just over the past 12 months. American farmers and ranchers have done everything in their power to keep the nation's supermarket shelves supplied over the past 2 years, are now on the edge of desperation. They are seeing their crops being destroyed by the ongoing drought. Their livestock headcounts have shrunk by the millions, and they're also dealing with some of the most expensive prices of critical materials and energy ever recorded. Much of the food that has been grown in the past year won't ever make it into our food system, and this means we're about to see shelves get even barer at our local stores in the coming weeks and months. That's what we're going to expose in today's video. Before moving on, please support us by leaving a thumbs up in this video, subscribe to our channel so you stay up to date with the most important news. Now, food industry insiders are warning us that soon supplies are going to get even tighter all over the country. In the last year, millions of U.S. farmers and ranchers witnessed the worst planting and harvesting conditions seen this century. And they're being forced to watch the decimation of their crops and the decline of their chicken and beef cow herds as a myriad of problems piles up. Missouri farmer Darvin Bendlich, a 66-year-old fourth-generation cattle and grain farmer, highlighted that the extreme weather that he and his neighbors are facing has taken them on a roller coaster ride. Earlier this year, it rained so much he had to delay planting. Then the drought came, destroying countless acres of crops. That was a rough start, Bentlich said in an interview with Forbes. In my 50 years of farming, it never went from being so wet to so dry. It's the fastest I've ever seen. He added, pray for rain. Sometimes it seems like it can't get any worse. At the same time, Nebraska rancher Trent Lewis, who hails from 6 generations of farmers dating back to the 1830s, notes that soaring diesel prices are making things harder for farmers during this year's harvest season. Since 2000, Luz has been educating his community about the food system, where our food comes from, and who's producing it, how shortages could become a reality, and why disruptions are popping up everywhere. Conservation is about producing more with less, Luz told the Epoch Times. In 1900, it took 10 acres of land to produce enough food to feed one person per year. In 2021, it takes less than a third of an acre. That's all thanks to diesel power, he said. But with diesel prices nearing $5 a gallon, smaller food producers who can't afford the higher costs are deciding to abandon some of their crops instead, something that has been keeping Luz up all night. He isn't worried about his family. Raising cattle and pigs for almost 100 years means that his household will have enough food on their table despite the challenges plaguing the nation's food system. What really scares him, he says, is the prospect that the other 329.5 million Americans, especially those living in cities like New York and Los Angeles, will eventually find out that there ain't enough food supplies to feed everyone. Food insecurity is a grave national security danger, he warns. Today, 24 million U.S. households do not have enough to eat on a regular basis. And unfortunately, that number is set to shoot up as more issues impact our domestic production. In 2022, nearly 3/4 of U.S. farmers saw a reduction in harvest yields due to the dry weather, with 37% saying they were tilling over fields that won't produce anything because of a lack of water. That's a 13% increase from last year. According to Farm Bureau data, 1/3 of orchard farmers nationwide and 50% in California said they were ripping up trees, an increase from 17% in 2021. Ranchers are also having to make some very tough decisions. A new report revealed that 2/3 of the country's ranchers are selling off animals or selling off birds, with average herd sizes dropping by 36%. The biggest herd declines are in Texas, collapsing 50%, New Mexico, collapsing 43%, and Oregon, 41%. A clear example of the wide geographic distribution of the distress. Even more worryingly, as hot temperatures wreak havoc on California's agricultural land, which produces most of America's food, including 3/4 of its beef cattle and 70% of its vegetables, fruits, and nuts. Agricultural producers are having to go farther to find water, and higher fuel costs are forcing them to pay more to pump what isn't coming from the sky. Nebraska farmer Kevin Fulton said that predicament is still better than what's happened to the land that's not irrigated. The pastures are burning up. Fulton, a 28-year veteran of farming, the land he inherited exposed to Forbes. He continued, "Some aren't going to produce anything, and the yields have been drastically reduced. This wears on you mentally. You're working hard to keep up with the irrigation. It's depressing. These kinds of things sometimes push farmers over the edge," he added. The blistering heat is also contributing to the dissemination of agricultural pests that devour key food crops, the University of Washington warned. A 3.6 Fahrenheit increase in temperatures can boost the number and appetite of insects, causing them to destroy 50% more wheat and 30% more maize, the report says. The rising heat stress is having a major impact on yields, with harvests of staple crops significantly down this year, which is likely to push the cost of grains such as corn and oats even higher. Those working, and yet a couple of weeks ago the company cancelled billions in orders as their earnings dramatically dropped in the last quarter. The trouble is, as consumer demand continues to rise, smaller retailers are much less equipped to absorb that demand. Target was one of the first companies to signal choppy waters ahead. The company has already seen its profit margin decline twice this year as the global supply chain crisis resulted in some severe inventory imbalances. The same happened with Kohl's, Gap, Bath and Body Works, and even the e-commerce company Shopify. Many other retailers are expected to get caught in the crosshairs as more supply disruptions emerge in the coming months. In other words, if the shelves are already bare in your area, they may be staying that way for a while. This is a global crisis, and the U.S. is right at the center of it. On Tuesday, the UN food chief warned that the world is facing a perfect storm on top of a perfect storm. He urged leaders to address the fertilizer supply shortage right now in order to prevent widespread food shortages next year. Otherwise, there's gonna be chaos all over the world. World Food Program Executive Director David Beasley said in an Associated Press interview, "There are millions of people in 45 countries knocking on famine's door," Beasley emphasized. "If we don't reach these people, you will have famine, starvation, destabilization of nations unlike anything we saw in 2007 to 2008 and 2011, and you will have mass migration. It's a perfect storm on top of a perfect storm. And with the fertilizer crisis we're facing right now, with droughts, we're facing a food pricing problem in 2022. This created havoc around the world. If we don't get on top of this quickly, and I don't mean next year, I mean this year, you will have a food availability problem in 2023, and that's gonna be hell."
Okay. Any comments on that?
There is a shortage on everything, and I don't know if everybody's noticing what they do have that's in the store is so expensive, people are not buying it. But just for instance, looking for cornbread mix, right? Walmart here has been out of it for weeks, so you have to go to other places to look for what you're needing. You just can't shop in one place anymore.
Right. Yeah, you got other stores they got stuff that because they wasn't selling it, they still might have it. But once they run out, that's it. Like he was saying. And then it ain't mean the writing is on the wall. It's time for people to start taking the initiative to prepare themselves because of writing on the wall. Simple as that.
Right.
Right. And you gotta look at the fact that he said we gotta be returned back to our homeland. You know, we're not gonna go back. We know it ain't gonna be lilies and roses. You gotta bring about this. You know, you gotta bring about chaos and destruction in order to do that. I'm gonna read something right quick. This when they was delivered out of the 70 years was up in Babylon, and they were getting ready to go back. Promised return from Babylon. The 70 years was up. When Haggai. So this is kind of an example. This Haggai chapter 2, verses chapter 2 of Haggai 20 through 23. It says, again, the word of the Lord came unto Haggai in the 4th and 20th day of the month, saying, speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Judah, saying, I will shake the heavens and the earth. We talked about that shaking last night. I will shake the heavens and the earth, and I will overthrow. See that? I will overthrow the thrones of kingdoms with an S on it, and I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the heathen, and I will overthrow their chariots, and those that ride in them, and the horses and their riders shall come down, every one by the sword of his brother. We're looking at that. 23. In that day, said the Lord of hosts, I will take thee, O Zerubbabel, my servant, son of Sethel, said the Lord, and I will make thee a signet, for I have chosen thee, said the Lord of hosts. So when he says he's going to bring down the strength of the kingdoms, the strength of kingdoms in the earth today is these shipping containers and this global system they got in place. So it's being disrupted. And the key thing that I got out of the video was the guy said it's going to be mass migrations because of that. So the Most High wanted Israel in Egypt. So what he brought about? He brought about a famine. And here's the 70 souls that was with Jacob. They had to leave. They had to leave and go to Egypt. They couldn't stay where they was at. There wasn't nothing there. And so we're looking at the same thing happening now. We got to get back to where we came from some kind of way. Okay. Shalom. 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 Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna deal with this next video.
On average, the black dollar circulates for about 6 hours in the black community. We need to do better as a community, support black-owned businesses, but that's sometimes easier said than done. Before we can support black-owned businesses, we need a readily available economic search engine to be able to find those black businesses to support in our communities. The Essential Black Business app is the answer to that question. The EVA is always on the community side, meeting the community's needs with easy access.
So at the Queen's passing, everybody's been focusing on certain things that the Queen owned. And one thing they homed in on is a diamond that she owned called the Great Star of Africa. It's the largest clear-cut diamond in the world. And this particular diamond was just sitting on the crown that Queen Elizabeth was walking around with. Now, this particular diamond comes from South Africa. It has an estimated net worth of $400 million. This diamond belongs to the people of South Africa. $400 million can go a long way if it's spread out through the people of South Africa. But yet this woman was walking around with that. At the same time, South Africa, from what I researched, is actually in the British Commonwealth. I thought that was very interesting as well. Now, as I presented this question on Twitter to the brothers and sisters from South Africa, a lot of them like, man, we ain't got no food with them people in no Britain. And so we got our own issues and problems. And so we're trying to deal with these issues over here and said, but it's not that the people themselves is big to be in a Commonwealth. It is, the leaders that voted, because you have to be into this. But if you're in the Commonwealth, then now King Charles has sovereignty in that particular country, whether any Commonwealth country. And sovereignty means he don't even have any responsibility to follow any laws. He can do whatever he wants to do. And I just think that is, that bothers me, because any African country that's in a Commonwealth and having a British European as your king doesn't seem right to me. It just don't. If you want a king, let that be a black man. You want a queen, let that be a black woman, a woman of your country. I think all African nations need to reassess this Commonwealth crap that they're in, because this Commonwealth, these are former colonies that's still literally being colonized to a point, because Britain have their hands in all kind of other people's countries. You better believe that. But the question I've said online, I also want to present to the people of South Africa is, do you think you should demand your diamond back? Because the queen is gone now, right? She's not using it. I think your diamond should be returned to you. That comes from your homeland. It's a lot of gold that the British monarchy has. The reason why the British pound is so strong is because it's backed by all the gold they stole out of Ghana. The Ghana need their gold back. You understand what I'm saying? Like, these people have no resources, none. So how is they living so much better than you in the African continent, and they have no resources? They have none. They got to go down there to your countries and get the resources. But I believe it's time for every African nation to start, and Caribbean nation, to start looking into this. Now, I heard that Antigua and Barbuda, if I'm saying it right, they're looking into getting out of the Commonwealth now, since the queen is gone. I believe since the queen is gone, all of y'all need to get out of it. All African Caribbean nations, get out of it. You do not need Charles to be, or King Charles now, to be your head of state. Your head of state needs to be your president or prime minister. That should be your head of state. Now, Barbados, they took that move, and shout out to Barbados for that. But you need to start pressuring your governments to say, hey, get us out of that mess. We don't want nothing to do with the British monarchy. We are fine on our own. We don't need white mommy and white daddy to be overseeing what we're doing. And then in a lot of the African and Caribbean countries, they have a special representative from the British monarchy overseeing the laws they're coming up with. Why do you need them to oversee your laws? That's still kind of colonizing you to a point. And you getting approval from the British monarchy before you can do a whole lot of things. And you wonder why some things say, well, it seems like it's black managed, but behind the scenes, it seems like it's white ran. That's why. Any country that's in a Commonwealth, you need to start questioning your leaders and say, no. In South Africa, you fought to get rid of apartheid. You don't need the British monarchy having any hands in things. And this is why what contributes to some of that issue in South Africa, because I've seen it with my own two eyes. You got now 10% of the population owning the wealth. And you feel like, well, it's gotten out of the hands of the whites and say, we control it now, but why hasn't it seemed different? That's why. That's why. And it's up to my young brothers and sisters in places like South Africa and any other country in the Commonwealth. They don't. Ghana's in the Commonwealth, a whole lot of them in the Commonwealth. Then Nigerian president, oh my God, the queen. I feel so sad. The Ghanaian president too. Oh, the queen. Really? Ghana? They stole all your gold. They stole it. They got your gold literally sitting up in vaults that belongs to Ghana. Now you talking about, oh, the queen. No. To tell Charles, give us back our gold. How about doing that? Give us back all our artifacts y'all stole. Everything you got is a stolen legacy. You the biggest thieves in the world. Everything you got, you stole. You didn't work hard for crap. You colonized all these nations all over the world. You enslaved people. There's a lot of people that are celebrating when Queen Elizabeth died. Indian people were celebrating. That was kind of fun to watch some of them videos. The Irish were celebrating. Even some Africans, the EFF definitely went in on their statement. I love the EFF's response. Shout out to Julius Malema. Now, some people may complain about some politics they disagree with Julius Malema, but Julius Malema is spot on when it comes to these white supremacists. And that's something you should be paying attention to more than anything, brothers and sisters in South Africa who could be watching. But yeah, those of you in South Africa, let me know. Do you think that your leaders should demand the great star of Africa to come back to South Africa where it belongs, to the people of South Africa? Y'all definitely let me know. And also,
Okay. Any comments on that? Yeah, so if you look at that, paying attention to it and correlating all this stuff to what's been prophesied, you can see the direction that it's heading in, because of, that was unheard of even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that what's being said about Queen Elizabeth and Great Britain, how these people coming out in public saying that they're not mourning the death of her, and they bringing out the points about all the atrocities and all the thieving and theft that went on that they done stole. So you got to look at that. That's tied to Israel too. If they're gonna return, they calling for the return of the artifacts and return that diamond back to Africa. Well, they got a bunch of people out of Africa too. You got to return them. You can see all this. You can see it all heading that direction. For the people that eyes are open. Yeah. So I mean, it's happening right before our eyes. Like I said, we see the disassembling of the European nations, JFAC, and we see how people are standing up, proclaiming things that was unheard of, like I said, 10 years ago. So it's happening and it's moving so fast. Oh man, and I was talking to you about the red heifer and about the little red-headed boy and all that. We got some more information on that. Like I say, let me get it. There we go. Last night I was looking on YouTube. I was just looking on the internet, and it just popped up, but it had no comments, no information about it. It said Harry is not King Charles' son. So I was looking for the dialogue or the article, but it wasn't no article. It just said that. But here we got this right here. It says, here's what would happen if King Charles stepped down. See what I'm saying? And handed the throne over to Prince William, right? So here we go. It says King Charles III has not indicated that he ever plans to renounce the throne. Given his age and historical low popularity in the UK, however, it remains a possibility. Insider spoke with a royal historian about what would happen if Charles stepped down as king. The UK is mourning the loss of Queen that reigned for 70 years, while also welcoming a king that spent the same amount of time preparing to replace her. From the outside, the reign of King Charles III appears to have gotten off to a shockingly good start. In his first speech, he made his intention to follow his mother's footsteps crystal clear. Okay. As the Queen herself did, with such unwavering devotion, I too now solemnly pledge myself throughout the remaining time God grants me to uphold the constitutional principles at the heart of our nation. He said, Charles, now age 73, is the oldest person to become king in British history. In the years before Queen Elizabeth II died, speculation mounted that she may be contemplating stepping down and handing the throne over to Charles. That said, the decades Charles spent as a prince saw his popularity among the public nearly decimated, especially following his divorce from Princess Diana in 1996. As recent as 2021, it led to a desire among the British public for Prince William to succeed Queen Elizabeth II instead of his father, according to a poll on behalf of the Newsweek. Right? So, okay, let's see what we got. It says Charles can't simply step away from the throne. There are two scenarios in which Charles is alive but no longer king. Royal historian Marlene Coins told Insider. The first comes under the Regency Act. Cohen said, which could be triggered if Charles was physically incapacitated, meaning he could no longer speak or move. Dr. Bob Morris, an honorary senior research associate at UCLA's Constitution Unit, told insiders the monarch's inability to carry out their duties would also have to be certified by various people, including their spouse. If that occurs, the next in line, Prince William, will become regent. He takes over and all his powers, and has all the powers of the king, except some matters which are reserved, Morris said. Okay. However, there's another more controversial scenario. Cohen said it's highly unlikely to ever occur, given Charles' intention to follow in his mother's footsteps. In any case, abdication is a complex process. Charles couldn't simply decide to abdicate by himself. To make it official, he will first need UK Parliament to pass an act of abdication, Cohen said. He can't just say, okay, here is yours, Williams. No, succession to the throne is legislated by Parliament, she added. However, Morris said if Charles really wanted to step down, he could. The brute act, if it is, the brute fact is, if he wanted to go, no one could stop him, Morris said, but at least the law can provide for the lawful succession of William. It says abdication will shift the entire line of succession forward. One of the consequences of monarch stepping down is that every other royal in the official line of succession is bumped up a spot, leaving some inheriting more duties, titles, and responsibilities. Okay. If Charles stepped down, William would become king, and his son, Prince George, would have inherited the Duchy of Cornwall. Cohen said that inheritance consists of large portfolios of privately owned land and assets estimated as much as $1 billion in March, according to The Guardian. If he abdicates, then you have a minor Duke of Cornwall, who would be like Prince Charles was in the early years of his mother's reign. She said, okay. So, like I said, all of a sudden, all this stuff is coming up, all these scenarios, you know, these suggestions and all that about certain things. So like I said, keep an eye on that. I just thought that was kind of interesting that all of a sudden, you know, out the blue, they just come out and say that, you know, Prince Harry is not King Charles' son. So I'm gonna go into it a little more after I get it, you know, later on today, see what that was all about. Any comments on that? Okay, go in on this. I got some little need to know information here. Let me deal with that.
Sure, but the question is, has the red heifer been found? And if so, what's next? First, make sure you subscribe and you hit the bell and you give us a thumbs up. It really helps. So, to say that we're living in exciting times is an understatement. World events are converging at such a high rate that it's impossible to keep up. Bible students like myself, for us, it's both exhilarating and concerning to see the whole planet moving towards a one world government so quickly. Now, I have been a believer for 39 years, and since then, I have firmly believed in what the Bible says about the end times, about the one world government, and about a cashless society. But I always thought that it wouldn't be in my lifetime, and yet, here we are, it seems. How is it possible? The next event on God's timetable is the rapture of the believers from planet Earth. This is a signless event, meaning that nothing really needs to happen before it takes place. It could happen anytime. That's what we call about being imminent. I also believe that after the rapture, those left behind will go through increasingly perilous times, known as the time of Jacob's trouble, for the triumphal return of Yeshua the Messiah at the end of those 7 years. And this is when the Messianic or millennial kingdom will finally be inaugurated. Incredibly, during the Great Tribulation, or more precisely at the midpoint, after 3.5 years, the temple in Jerusalem, David wanted to build, as we read in 1 Kings chapter 5 through 9, and 2 Chronicles chapters 2 through 7. Then after suffering some heavy damage at the hands of Nebuchadnezzar, that temple was rebuilt by Zerubbabel between 520 and 515 BCE and became known as the Herod's Temple. And finally, Roman General Titus destroyed the Herodian Temple in 70 CE. So currently, Israel doesn't have a temple. There's no temple in Jerusalem. But are things about to change? The Bible speaks of a third and a fourth temple. The fourth one is a millennial temple, and it is in Ezekiel 40 through 46. The third temple is a...
So a lot of people not realizing that when this temple go up and they build this temple, the whole game gonna change, because not only is gonna shine a light when this temple get built, it's gonna shine a light on this monarchy, which is King Charles and Queen Elizabeth. And they the ones that's, like I was saying before, sitting on the throne today. But it's a disconnect, because the average person don't know anything about that. And then where they located at? They located in over in UK, in Great Britain. Nobody connecting them to Israel. But when this temple go up, they're gonna relocate them to Jerusalem. Their whole game changed. That's why it's so adamant about understanding what's going on and how these people they're sliding around behind the scenes and got the average person in the dark on what's really going on.
Project that has been at the heart of the Temple Institute in Jerusalem for decades and other organizations. Actually, a section of religious Jews is convinced that they will be rebuilding their third temple and once again resume the sacrificial system in Israel. Actually, they're right. Even though God will never condone that temple, but that temple has to be rebuilt for the Antichrist to desecrate it. Towards that end, they have been painstakingly recreated all of the implements necessary for the resumption of temple life. Everything has been ready for a while now, even the priest from the tribe of Levi. Remember that the tribe of Levi is the only one that can be identified, since its identity was preserved in the name of its members, such as Levi, Levi, and Cohen, and other derivatives. But the proverbial buck stops here, because to resume temple duties, a red heifer is needed. It is important to note that the third temple, while simply called the third temple by its Jewish proponents, is also known by Yeshua's followers as the tribulation temple. So the red heifer. Well, the search for the red heifer has been going on for decades. The criteria for the selection of the ultimate red heifer are quite specific. The reason why a red heifer is needed is that the Jewish people at the temple must present themselves in a state of ritual purity before they perform their duties. We get this from passages like the Passover celebration in the wilderness in Numbers 9, 5-7. And I quote, "They observed the Passover in the first month on the 14th day of the month at twilight in the wilderness of Sinai, according to all that the Lord had commanded Moses. So the sons of Israel did. But there were some men who were unclean because of the dead person, so that they could not observe Passover on that day." Close quote. Now, according to Judaism, there isn't one Jewish man alive who can claim that level of purity, and since the temple no longer exists and the ashes of the red heifer are gone, it cannot yet be attained. Ritual purification continues to be mandatory for anyone within Judaism who has had contact with a dead body. The 113th commandment of the 613th found in the Torah stipulates that the ashes of a red heifer are to be used in the process of ritual purification. Actually, Numbers 19, 1-22 explains the process in more details, and I quote, "Then the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, This is the statute of the law, which the Lord has commanded, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel that they bring you an unblemished red heifer in which is no defect and on which a yoke has never been placed. You shall give it to Eleazar the priest, and he shall be brought outside the camp and be slaughtered in his presence. Next, Eleazar the priest shall take some of its blood with his finger and sprinkle some of its blood toward the front of the tent of meeting, 7 times. Then the heifer shall be burnt in his sight, its hide and its flesh and its blood with its refuse shall be burned. Now a man who is clean shall gather up the ashes of the red heifer, of the heifer, and deposit them outside the camp in a clean place. And the congregation of the sons of Israel shall keep it as water to remove impurity. It is purification from sin." Close quote. So we have the explanation here. It's a very specific use of the red heifer. So the only way to be cleansed from impurity is to be washed with water mixed with the ashes of a red heifer. But not any red heifer would do. The para aduma, or red cow, must be a young 3-year-old red heifer with no defect, on which no yoke has ever been placed. Only 9 heifers were ever found in the entire history of Israel. Can you believe that? So it goes without saying that they are extremely rare and very valuable. Much mystery surrounds the reason for using the ashes of a red heifer. I mean, why ashes? Why a cow of a specific color? Why a sacrifice or a killing of the animal outside the temple compound? Why mix with water? Jewish tradition records that even the very wise King Solomon did not understand anything about the red heifer. Now, the red heifer is also mentioned in the New Testament in Hebrews 9, 13-14, as an example of Yeshua's spotless, sinless sacrifice being greater than the ashes of the animal. Now, it gets exciting. Recently, 5 spotless young red heifer were flown to Israel from Texas. If they continue to grow spotless without defect and without even one or two black or white hair, they will qualify for the special sacrifice and gathering of their ashes. Time will tell. But these five are bringing a lot of hope to the temple people patiently awaiting the qualified candidate. So what does it all mean to us? There's been red heifers before and they've been disqualified. If those happen to be good, if a kosher red heifer has been located and selected, this represents the last piece of the puzzle before the temple can be rebuilt. Since all the implements have been recreated and the priests have been selected and trained for a while now, the temple could be rebuilt and the Levitical team can be purified. This validates the veracity of the Bible even further, as if we needed more validation to believe that it is the infallible and inerrant word of God. But anyway, unfortunately, if this is all happening in front of our eyes, and as great news as it may be for us followers of Yeshua the Messiah, it also means that the third temple is ready to be rebuilt. This is the temple that believers know as the Tribulation Temple. It is the very edifice that the coming Antichrist will desecrate as he calls himself God and forces people to worship him.
So we know about all that. That's he lost. But anyway, like I said before, when you understand that when this temple go up, everything changed and a lot of stuff I think that we're gonna be exposed and who we are. We're gonna come out too. But like I said before, when you look at how these people reacting to Queen Elizabeth's death, they not mourning, the African people not mourning, they asking for their stuff back and all that. It's all manifesting. You know, like I said, at hyper speed. You're thinking it's not like it was just 10 years ago when everything seemed like it was slow motion. Everything is sped up. And it's happening. You know, and like I said, two things. When that temple go up, game change, and this food. When they finally come all the way out that there ain't no food, people gonna start relocating. Be mass migrations, like the way that happened with the blacks in the South. They left the South. People not staying. They already moving around now, leaving here, going over to Africa. The migration, our return back to the place where they take us from is already happening. In mass numbers, they're not really talking about it. But yeah, there's gonna be some serious moving around and shuffling around when this thing come to a head as far as these food problem. Then, like I said, it already started. Yeah. So, anybody got any comments on that, or they want to interject? Okay, I'm opening it up for some Q&A. Anybody got any questions or comments about anything they want to talk about before we start reading out of the book of Leviticus? Okay, I got something.
Good.
What you got?
I say I was good, but I just wanted to put a little bit of information out there on the things that has been happening. I know, like in Mississippi and here, you know, where they have been having people call the schools and give bomb threats, or you know, say there's an active shooter in the building. And I know where Cynthia lives, they have been having it going on at their high school for like a week, and here it happened to us day before yesterday. So I just think it's a group of people that are doing that throughout the South.
Right. The thing that concentrate to focus in on that is over the last, right after the Mar-a-Lago thing with Trump, you have to understand those QAnon people. That's where the Karens and the Billy Bobs, all them coming from, and so he back around again to revving those people up again. Matter of fact, he had some kind of event Thursday night, and he wearing this on this lapel button now on his jacket with Q on it. So just him alone doing that is reviving them people, bringing them. You know, they was greatly embarrassed when what they did with the January 6th, but they didn't recover from that. So he back fueling them again. And that's what that is. Like you said, it's in the South.
Yes, it is. And they
You know
are
what I'm
getting
saying?
so rude. You can be in the
Right.
store and they'll run over you and, act like you're not standing there, or don't think about crossing the walk way, even if you got the right of way. They ain't gonna stop. I noticed that.
They'll drive out in front of you at the stop sign too. The yield sign or whatever. They see there's a black person coming, you shoot on out there. And a lot of people saying that it's the medication and all that. Now it's that, like the guy said, it's racism, and it's escalated because they see that the world is going to dogs, and then they got a problem with it. And you got to call it for what it is, and then at the same time you got to be on alert, because these people are, they ain't right. You know what I'm saying? So let me play this. It's got a little more to do with, I want to show you how off, listening to certain people that might even, you might think they're Israelites, but how off they are. Let's listen to this right here.
Would be in the form of a man. This is the form that over the years, we've been watching this activity surrounding the third temple, and this is connected to the red heifers. As many of us are aware, 5 of these red heifers were recently delivered to Israel just days ago. You are watching clips of that event. For those that haven't heard of this, it's a very big deal, especially biblically referencing the end times. Many of us observe the developments with the red heifers because we realize the connection to the time period in which it is utilized, alongside the reinstated temple service that we see in Daniel chapter 9, verse 27, and that there's only been 9 of these red heifers since the time of Moses. The 10th red heifer is expected to be prepared for sacrifice by the Messiah, according to Jewish custom. Here is a snapshot to this on the Temple Institute's website. On the contrary, we in Christ are aware that the 10th was the Messiah himself, not a preparation for sacrifice by a.
Yeah, did you hear that? Anybody hear that? Catch that?
Can you play that again?
Okay. Go back.
To Jewish custom. Here is a snapshot to this on the Temple Institute's website. On the contrary, we in Christ are aware that the 10th was the Messiah himself, not.
Okay. So he say the 10th red heifer is Yahshua himself. Let that front mate. Okay, wow. The dude the other day said that Maimonides said that there's only been 9 since then, and it's 10 supposed to come, 9 and came, only 1 left, and he said that Yahushua gonna bring it with him for the sacrifice.
Bring the last one.
Right, and so when you understand that the whole everything surrounding the New Testament was he was the ultimate sacrifice, the last sacrifice for sin. So why in the hell would he bring a red heifer with him to be sacrificed?
Right. I was getting ready to ask that.
Now this dude said he is the red heifer. Yahweh shot the red heifer. Come on. Ain't that something? And then you got people buying into this bull crap. No, he the red heifer. He didn't went from son of God, now he a red heifer. You all over the place. Okay? Let it play some more.
A preparation for sacrifice by a Messiah, but the Messiah himself was prepared as a sacrifice for the remission of sins once and for all. I want you to see this for yourselves, as it will encourage you in the Lord Jesus Christ as we watch this prophecy unfold in Israel. This purification for sin, utilizing the red heifer, foreshadowed Jesus Christ. As I want to point out that this purification for sin would be in the form of a man. This is the form that it would be carried out. Look at this. Let's go to the book of Hebrews, chapter 10. Let's pick it up at verse 4. For it is not possible that the blood of bulls and of goats should take away sins. Wherefore, when he comes into the world, he says, sacrifice and offering thou wouldest not, but a body hast thou prepared for me. In burnt offerings and sacrifices for sin thou hast had no pleasure. Then said I, Lo, I come. In the volume of the book it is written of me, to do thy will, O God. Do you see that? So in Isaiah chapter 53, we see this purification for sin through this prepared body. Isaiah 53 verse 5, we see, but he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. Isaiah 53 verse 6, all we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. See, the form of a man. Isaiah chapter 53 verse 8, he was taken from prison and from judgment.
Okay, yeah, let me deal with that, man. Yeah, so let's look at it. I'm in Numbers 18, I think it is. Numbers 18. Okay. Right. So I'm in this he got it out of context. So he's saying he trying to say it's JC, but he is more than one person. It's actually the Levites. We're gonna see. I'm gonna show you why I say that. Say Numbers 18, and the Lord said unto Aaron, Lord of hosts talking to Aaron, thou and thy sons in thy father's house with thee shall bear the iniquity. So when he says he laid the sin on him, it's on these Levites. They're the ones that bear for us all. They ain't talking about no Jesus Christ. But anyway, I'm gonna read some more. It says, and the Lord said unto Aaron, thou and thy sons in thy father's house with thee shall bear the iniquity of the sanctuary, and thou and thy sons with thee shall bear the iniquity of your priesthood, and thy brethren also of the tribe of Levi, the tribe of thy father, bring thou with thee, that they may be joined unto thee and minister unto me, but thou and thy sons with thee shall minister before the tabernacle of witness. So we see right here, right here. These Levites. These ain't nobody else there. Ain't nobody else responsible. The judgment, this angel in Exodus 23 is given the power over sin and judgment from Yahweh, which is Michael. Then Michael came to earth, and through these Levites, they assisted him in dealing with sin on the earth. And so all the sin that happens, they got the obligation to teach and to inform the rest of the tribes of what's going on and the rest of the world. And if they don't succeed, the iniquity is laid on them. That's what this he and him is all about. It's not about no Jesus Christ. You know, and it just bedazzled me because I went for that back in the day, reading that they got your hoodwinked. You know, 2,000 years of, you know, you born and you know, come about and born, and you're born into this. You don't know the truth of the matter. So it sounds so good and looks so smooth, but it's a lie from the pits of hell. It's the Levites, our forefathers, that's bad iniquity of the sin, and he placed it on them. That's what the transatlantic slave trade and all that was about. Because they was responsible for sin. They was the end result of what happened, reason why Israel came to an end. And the reason why they ended up in Babylon for 70 years. They stopped keeping the law. They stopped keeping the law of release. The 6 years you till the ground, and the 7 years you let the ground rest. They just totally got away from that to the point where they found the book of the law down in the basement. They weren't even using it. And the king's supposed to have the book of the law with him at all times. And he's supposed to constantly be dealing with it. But they hadn't been dealing with it for 490 years. And like I said, because of that, the iniquity was placed on them. It's not on no son. The son is Israel. The whole nation of Israel is the son, so it's whacked out. You know, and then, like I said, the people will get, it's like this guy doing. You know, they didn't already set you up because they didn't lined everything up for it to look like it's good, but it ain't good. It ain't good at all. You know? Yeah, so I'm gonna cut that off. I don't want to hear no more of that. Okay, get out of this. Anybody got any comments? Anybody got any comments on that? Okay, I'm in the book of Leviticus. I'm gonna read a couple chapters, and then I'll read some more this evening. Just make a day out of it. Okay. Leviticus chapter 1 says, the law of burning offerings. And the Lord called unto Moses, spake unto him out of the tabernacle of the congregation, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, say unto them, if any man of you bring an offering unto the Lord, ye shall bring your offering of cattle, even of a herd and of a flock. If his offering be a burnt sacrifice of the Lord, let him offer a male without blemish, and he shall offer it of his own voluntary will at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before the Lord. And he shall put his hand upon the head of the burnt offering, and he shall be accepted for him to make an atonement for him. So let's look at it right here. This example right here, what I'm talking about. Verse 3, it says, if his offering be a burnt sacrifice of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish. He shall offer it of his own voluntary will at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation for the Lord, right? So let's look at that. At the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before the Lord. So let's go to Numbers right quick. Look at this story with Moses and Aaron, Miriam, when they was going against Moses. Look at it. Okay, make it plain. So I'm in chapter 12 of Numbers, and Miriam and Aaron is speaking against Moses. I'm gonna pick it up in verse 1. Miriam, Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. And they said, have the Lord indeed spoken only by Moses? Have he not spoken also by us? And the Lord heard it, right? And the Lord heard it, Lord of hosts. Now the man Moses was very meek above all the men which were upon the face of the earth. And the Lord spake suddenly unto Moses and unto Aaron and unto Moses, come out ye three unto the tabernacle of the congregation. And they three came out. Check it out. The Lord spake suddenly unto Moses, unto Aaron, and unto Miriam, come out ye three unto the tabernacle of the congregation. And the three came out. And the Lord came down in a pillar of a cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle. See that? Same place where these priests at. I just read in Leviticus. At the door of the tabernacle, and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth. Right? So we see he came down at the door of the tabernacle. So I'm back over here in Leviticus. In verse 3, chapter 1 of Leviticus 3. If his offering be a burnt off, a sacrifice of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish. He shall offer it of his own voluntary will at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation of the Lord. So that's where the Lord is. That's where these priests at, right? 4. And he shall put his hand upon the head of the burnt offering, and he shall accept it for him to make an offering. So it's the priest. The priest is there when they bring the sacrifice, and he take it, lay his hands on it, and for it to be accepted for an atonement. So I just read you in Numbers chapter 18 that they them with him providing the services for the Lord of hosts. And they're the ones doing all that. So when things don't go right and they don't do what they told, they being taught by the Lord of hosts himself. He's right there teaching them. And if things don't go right, the sin ain't gonna be on them. Not on some fictitious character. The sin gonna be on the Levites. They don't do right. We saw what happened to Samuel's sons. He killed them, right? And Moses and David freed. Okay, so it says, verse 5, and he shall kill the bullock before the Lord. So we fumbling with that word before. The Lord is there. I just showed you. He was standing right there when he told Moses and Miriam to come out. He's standing there in the door of the tabernacle, in the pillar of a cloud. When Solomon made the dedication to the temple, the cloud, he was there in the cloud. He was all in the temple. They couldn't even minister because he was in there. And the cloud was covering him. But he all up in there. They couldn't minister. So ain't nobody in there but him and the Levites and Aaron's seed. Ain't no son in there. Okay? So he says, 6, and he shall flay the burnt 5. He shall kill the bullock before the Lord. And the priest, Aaron's sons, just like we just read, shall bring the blood, sprinkle the blood round about upon the altar that is by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. So the altar, the priest right there, and Yahweh there. And if they don't do what they're supposed to be doing, the sin is on them. Right? It says, and the sons of Aaron, the priest shall put the fire upon the altar and lay the wood in order upon the fire. And the priest, Aaron's sons, shall lay the parts, the head, the fat, in order upon the wood that is on the fire, which is upon the altar. But his inwards and his legs and his legs shall he wash in water, and the priest shall burn all on the altar to be a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto the Lord. So this guy here just said that the 10th the tenth red heifer gonna be Yahweh himself, right? They're gonna cut him up, cut his head up, and burn it on the fire. Okay, so he says, but his inward and his legs shall he wash in water, and the priest shall burn all the altar, burn it all on the altar, to be burned as a sacrifice, as an offering made by fire, a sweet savor unto the Lord. And if his offering be of the flock, namely of the sheep or of the goats, for a burnt sacrifice, he shall bring it a male without blemish, and he shall kill it on the side of the altar northward before the Lord. And the priest, Aaron's sons, shall sprinkle the blood round about upon the altar, and it shall come in, and he shall cut it into his pieces with his head and his fat, and the priest shall lay them in the order on the wood that is on the fire, which is upon the altar. So, like I said before, they didn't concoct all this bull crap, but you got to go along with the program. It's an order, and it's a way to do all this. He just told you got to cut the head up. You got to cut the head and different parts of it up and place it in certain places. So if he the red heifer that's coming back, the 10th one, this is what they got to do to him. Come on. See? But he shall wash the inwards and the legs with water, and the priest shall bring it all and burn it upon the altar. It is a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire of sweet savor upon the Lord. So let's look at it. So you say, well, what you talking about, bro? You told. Okay, so I'm in Isaiah, right? I'm in Isaiah chapter 60, right? Let's look at it. Isaiah chapter 60. So it says, let me get it. So it's Isaiah chapter 60. This is the future, which is where we at right now. Say, arise, shine. This verse 1, 60 and 1. Arise, shine, for thy light is come. The glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, gross darkness the people. But the Lord shall rise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. And the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and the kings to the brightness of thy rising. Lift up thine eyes round about, and see all they that gather themselves together, they come to thee. Thy sons shall come from afar, and thy daughters shall be nursed upon thy side. Then shalt thou see and flow together, and thine heart shall fear and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto thee. Forces of the Gentiles shall come unto thee. Now here you go. So they go back, they got to pick back up with all what they was doing with these sacrifices. So they need the sacrificial animal. So verse 6, Isaiah 60 and 6. The multitude of camels shall cover thee, the drummery of the Midian, ephod, and all they from Sheba shall come. They shall bring gold, incense, and they shall show forth the praises of the Lord. Then 7, and all the flocks, that's what they need. All the flocks of Kedar shall be gathered together unto thee, and the rams. See that? That's what Abraham was told to put on the altar instead of Isaac. After he was proven, the Lord host came down and told him it's a ram over there in the bush. Put him on the altar, and there's a way to do that. We just saw how to do it. You got to cut the head off. So anyway, he says in verse 7, all the flocks of Kedar shall be gathered together unto thee. The rams of Nebat shall minister unto thee. How? They shall come up upon acceptance on my altar, and I will glorify the house of my glory. So they got to go up on the altar. You can't show up as a sacrifice and then don't get put on the altar. So if he indeed that 10th red heifer, well, he got to go on the altar. He got to get his head cut off and all that, and you got to get burned on the sacrifice. You got to take the fat and all that, and you got to do something with all that. So, like I said, let that ferment. Okay. So, like I said, these it's 2022. You got to do something with all this ignorance. Okay. Let me get back over here, man. Leviticus. But like I said, they're gonna find a way out of that. You know. So anyway, I'm in chapter Leviticus 1 and 8. And the priest Aaron's sons shall lay the parts, the head and the fat in order upon the wood that on the fire, which is I read that 13, Leviticus 1 and 13. But he shall wash the inwards and the legs with water, and the priest shall bring it all, burn it upon the altar. It is a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto the Lord. And if the burnt sacrifice for his offering of the Lord be of fowls, then shall he bring his offering of turtle doves and young pigeons. And the priest shall bring it unto the altar and wring his head. See that? Wring his head and burn it on the altar, and the blood thereof shall be wrung out at the side of the altar. And he shall pluck away his crop from his feathers and cast it before the altar on the east part by the place of the ashes. And he shall cleave it with the wings thereof, but shall not divide it asunder. And the priest shall burn it upon the altar, upon the wood that is upon the fire. Okay? Upon the fire, it shall be a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto the Lord. So let's look at that. So this is Leviticus 1 and 15, right? And the priest shall bring it into the altar, wring off the head, burn it on the altar, and the blood thereof shall be wrung out at the side of the altar. And he shall pluck away his crops with his feathers, cast them beside the altar on the east part by the place of the ashes. And he shall cleave to it with his wings thereof, but he shall not divide it asunder. So we see right here. Let's look at that. Look at a prime example of everything we just read. It's right over here. Genesis. Abraham did it. I'm in Genesis 15, right? It says 15, starting at verse 7. And he said unto him, I am the Lord, they brought thee up out of the Ur of the Chaldeans to give thee the land to inherit it. Talking to Abraham. Abraham. And he said, God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto him, take me a heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle doves and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these and divided them, doing the same thing I just read in Leviticus. Them in the midst, laid each piece against another, but the birds he divided not. Same thing we just read. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abraham drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abraham, and lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. So my point is, Abraham ain't doing nothing no different than what's being taught to the Levites right over here in verse 1. So when he's dealing with these cattle and these goats and all that, the head got to go. You got to be cut up. Then you got to get the fat and all that certain things you got to do. So, Yahweh Shai is a sacrifice. That's what's got to happen. You're doing the cross comparison with everything else. Compare that. What happened to the sacrifice when they bring the sacrifice? It's a process. And like the Most High said, like the Lord of Hosts said, it never came across my mind. He told Naomi that they was in dealing with the Moabites, sacrificing their children to the fire and all that. And he said, you don't deal with that. It ain't never crossed his mind. He telling you you don't have no son that I'm gonna sacrifice. They ain't even in my psyche. I ain't got no son to sacrifice. I don't sacrifice no son. No, none of my kids to no fire. That's like he said. It's newly concocted by the Greeks and the Romans. Okay. So anybody got any comments? I'm gonna read chapter 2 and then we'll close out.
Shalom. I have a couple of comments. And we see first thing that they have no problem with making human sacrifice or even sacrificing the children when we know, our children are a blessing. So we don't sacrifice, our children. And when you were talking about the order, all throughout the Old Testament, you see the order. Starting with Genesis, there's an order when it comes to the men and the women. There's an order when it came to building the ark. There's an order when it came to making the anointing oil. It's an order all throughout. And today, that's a lot of the problem. There's no order. There's no structure. Everybody is just, running around doing their own thing. And I think that ties back to, when you said wait on the Lord. You know what I'm saying? He's going to guide you right. Everything he does is perfect.
Right.
And there's just no order in the New Testament. They are just, they free willy. They just do what they want to do.
Right. They've been doing it forever and a day. It's paganism.
Right.
Ain't no order to it. It's out of context when you start trying to tie it to our way of life and our culture.
Exactly.
If we zeroed in, if you ain't zeroed in, you gonna go for it. But it ain't working.
Right.
Not for the Israelites that's waking up for the truth. Like I say, when you wake up, that's nothing. To find out that you're a Hebrew Israelite, you have to find out who your God is.
Oh yeah.
That's how we got over here. We got over here because we discontinued the order that we're talking about dealing with him.
Right.
And we got cast off. So it's only fitting and proper that when you wake up, you got to find out who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you break in a bank, you gotta know where the safe is.
Okay.
You ain't gonna plan the robbery and know where the safe is before you break in there. You're just gonna break in there and then you running around trying to find the safe. Yeah, come on. It's crazy. So anybody else got any comments? Chapter 2 of Leviticus says, and when any will offering and when any will offer a meat offering unto the Lord, his offering shall be of fine flour, and he shall pour oil upon it and put frankincense thereon, and he shall bring it to Aaron's sons, the priests, and he shall take thereout a handful of the flour thereof, and of the oil thereof, with all the frankincense thereof, and the priest shall burn the memorial of it upon the altar, to be an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto the Lord. And the remnant of the meat offering shall be Aaron's and his sons, and it is a thing most holy, the offering of the Lord made by fire. And if thou bring an oblation of a meat offering baked in the oven, it shall be unleavened cakes of fine flour mingled with oil, or unleavened wafers anointed with oil. And if thy oblation be a meat offering baked in a pan, it shall be of fine flour unleavened, mingled with oil. Thou shalt part it in pieces and pour the oil thereon. It is a meat offering. And if thine oblation be a meat offering baked on in the frying pan, it shall be made of fine flour with oil. And thou shalt bring the meat offering that is made of these things unto the Lord. And when it is presented unto the priest, he shall bring it unto the altar. And the priest shall take from the meat offering a memorial thereof, and shall burn it upon the altar. It is an offering made by fire of sweet savor unto the Lord. And that which is left of the meat offering shall be Aaron's and his sons, and is the thing most holy of the offering of the Lord made by fire. No meat offering which ye shall bring unto the Lord shall be made with leaven, for he shall burn no leaven. nor any honey in any offering of the Lord made by fire. As for the oblation of the first fruits, ye shall offer them unto the Lord, but they shall not be burnt on the altar for sweet savor. In any oblation of thy meat offering shall thou season with salt, neither shall thou suffer the salt of the covenant of the Lord to be lacking from thy meat offering, which all thine offerings thou shalt offer salt. And if thou offer a meat offering of thy first fruit unto the Lord, thou shalt offer the meat offering of thy first fruit, green ears of corn, dried by the fire, even corn beaten out of full ears. And thou shalt put the oil upon it, and lay fragrances thereon. It is a meat offering. And the priest shall burn, excuse me, burn the memorial of it, part of the beaten corn thereof, and part of the oil thereof, with all the frankincense therein. It is an offering made by fire unto the Lord. So, in reading this chapter 2, we see everything that they do, they bring it to the priest. They bring it to the priest. And the priest is being assisted by Levites. Ain't nobody else there. But the thing I want to shine a light on that I think is going on, a lot of people not focusing in on it, is you notice he keeps saying in verse 4, and if you bring an oblation, right? Be in verse 5, if you bring an oblation. Verse 7, if thy oblation be meat offering. So what is that? What is this? What are you talking about? Let's go to Daniel right quick. Okay. Let me Daniel. Okay. Let me get it. Okay. So chapter 9, it says, chapter 9, verse 20. And while I was speaking and praying and confessing my sins and the sins of my people, and presenting my supplication before the Lord, my God, for the holy mountain of my God, yet while I was speaking in prayer, even the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation. See that? So Daniel was making sin offerings for himself. It was the evening oblation. We saw what the oblation is. It was it's either a ram or a goat or whatever. He's making an oblation. And in the third one, in the evening, he's getting ready to make it. Gabriel showed up. Notice what he said, 20. And while I was speaking and praying and confessing my sins and the sins of my people Israel, and presenting my supplication before the Lord my God, for the holy mountain of my God. Yea, while I was speaking in prayer, even the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation. Okay. Any comments? Anybody got anything before we go? Yeah, let me play this before we close out. This is based on what we're looking at as far as what's getting ready to happen real soon. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You can let it roll off like water on a duck back or whatever, but all hell getting ready to break loose. You know. So I'm gonna play this right here. Hopefully it helps somebody. Okay, let me get it.
a mother, a mama,
Yep.
a nana. Some countries may
Yep.
say nana,
A grandma.
a grandmom,
Mm-hmm.
a, a,
A
a,
sister.
a sister,
An aunt.
a aunt. Please introduce yourself to our people, because you better sit tight and listen what she's got to say, because Mama's going to share some survival tips when this famine that we're hearing about, food shortage that is happening, what you can do. So we're going to introduce you. Please go, my sister.
Oh, my name is Mwati Majuma. I'm a mother of 3 children and 3 grandchildren, and I would like to introduce you to survival. For me, I would say that in our continent, we should not have a time when we say we have a shortage of food. That should not be a question to be asked. Once you put up your system, and it is very simple, and it can start with whatever you want to have it in 3 weeks. You can grow it and harvest in 3 weeks. You can grow and harvest in a month. You can grow and harvest in 6 months, and you can grow and harvest in 4 years.
So Mama has a farm out here,
Yeah.
that is an organic farm.
Absolutely.
And you have how many acres out here?
We have about 15 hectares of organic permaculture farm. It's not like we are all working on all of it. We also believe to leave the nature do its own work a bit. Our forest is a coconut. So we have a bush of coconut and cinnamon, and we let it be, and get the other animals and small insect and pests and microbes to stay there and keep it as a reserve. But the area which we are working now is merely 3 acres. That is what we are producing vegetables. And this is not just for ourselves. This is also for a weekly sell. We sell out every Monday and every Thursday for delivery to your house, organic produce from the farm.
What's the name of the farm?
Msonge Organic Family Farm is a trust farm. It has been bought by my father in 1957. We moved here in 1965. We were raised on this farm. We used to cycle to go to school in town. And we have a vision, and my father has been a very visionary, always was saying the farm is your place for life. Work can finish, farm never finish. You can find something to do in the farm, even when you retire and whatever other activities you do. And fortunate for me, I went to do my studies in agriculture. And we can talk later on what that study in agriculture did to our farming, which is not what it was supposed to do. It takes us away from building out our own indigenous way of farming and give us a completely new, which has to depend quite a lot on internal inputs, which are killing ourselves.
So family, you all sit tight, because this is something where she's going to show us that what you can instantly put in the ground, grow, have a produce within 2 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, a year, where they're going to show you the techniques of how do you continuously have food in a small plot in your backyard.
Yeah.
Something simple.
In a bag, in a container. Very simple.
Very simple.
Yeah. The excuse of the land is not there. No, people should not say that we don't have 3 acres. You don't need 3 acres to feed yourself. This is business, but you want to also start to feed yourself first before you go to the business.
You got to feed yourself first before you go to the business. That's profound. So we're going to go over here, and Mama's going to show us 5 produce that we can start today and start feeding ourselves within a month, within 2 months, 3 months, so that, because they're talking about food shortages, they're talking about famines, they're talking about water shortages, how we can do this thing. So we're going to move on to where they are growing this food. Okay, Mama, so you have this right here, this people are putting together food and all. What do we have right here, though?
We have plenty here. If we move in, it depends on the people. Like you see here, this lady, she has ordered special things what she wants. She has a spinach. This takes only 3 weeks
to grow,
and you harvest and you eat. You have this one, is also a 1 month parsley. You have all these soft salad thing. These are all 3 weeks stuff. We have our famous.
What is that, Mama? This right here, that look like it's bok choy.
This is we call it Chinese.
Yes.
And this is what we call Swiss chard.
Swiss chard.
Yeah.
That all takes how long to grow?
These are all 3 weeks to grow.
Takes 3 weeks to grow.
3 weeks to grow.
Okay.
And then they can keep on and then keep on harvesting. This is a baby spinach.
Mhm.
You plant it once, it's a creeper. You could see it later on, and you keep on harvesting. Once you have this planted, it takes a month, and then you start harvesting it without stopping.
Now, family, I want to go ahead and make sure that I put a disclaimer in here.
Yes.
We have to understand that we're talking about being in the motherland to grow this stuff, because some countries and stuff don't have the 24-hour sunlight that we have, and they don't have the conditions. That's why I say go back to Africa, because here you have a weather conditions that can allow food to grow year round.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And we have our miracle one. This one, within 2 months, you start harvesting. This is called a tree spinach.
A tree spinach.
Yeah, it's a drought resistance. Once you have it, you're just harvesting. It doesn't finish. It's different from our normal cassava because this one doesn't form roots. Cassava, after 6 months, you have to harvest it. This one, you keep on putting it out. And then
So cassava is only 6 months?
You start harvesting 6 months. There's
Okay.
a variety for 6 months, and then there's a variety for 1 year.
Okay.
Yes, but you have to harvest it. If you don't harvest it, the root will go bad. So, but we also have a traditional way of preserving it, which we have been losing it. You peel it, you dry it, you keep it a bit fermented, and then when you come to cook it, you soak it, and then you have a kind of a delicacy dish, which we are losing that one now. So we also have a season. You have things like jackfruit. You have things like you have things like breadfruit. These are season. You plant this tree. This one has been planted by my father. So we keep on enjoying. So we are trying to tell people, be a generation thinker. Don't think of planting just because you're going to use it tomorrow.
Wow.
Plant something that you can have generation to come. I'm harvesting this. My children are eating it now. My grandchildren will still be eating this.
So you're not
it is
thinking
there.
about yourself.
No,
You're
no,
thinking
no,
about
no.
your children's
If I
children's
think
children.
myself, I will not have harvested breadfruit at the moment. I will have to wait for 6 years before I can have it. Kunti, Chika. With the things like papaya, for our situation here, we have to plant every month so that we keep a continuity of harvesting for those papayas. So this avocado tree is flowering.
The avocado tree.
The avocado tree, the big one there. This one, I did not plant it, but I'm enjoying. But I'm also planting quite a lot of them, hoping now for the generation. And that mentality of not the kids are nowadays, the youth nowadays, we push them for the mentality of do something for the next generation.
Okay, so if you want to watch all of that, it's a food shortage is happening in Tanzania. Permaculture shares a secret for survival and growing food. Okay, yeah, you want to check it out. So, anybody got anything before we go? You're right, sister. Seeing it, the trespass offense were mandatory. That's how you write to divide everything. Okay. Anybody else got anything before we go? Okay. Yeah, I want to say shalom, everybody. I'll see y'all this evening at for our close out the Sabbath, for our evening Sabbath class. Shalom, shalom, and another shalom.
Shalom.